Marina from the SDG Global Action Campaign, welcome to #Education Day.
I'm so happy to be here, Jeremy. Always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
Thank you, Marina. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you is, could you talk to us about your journey, well, particularly your kind of education journey that made you want to be a part of this today?
So, Jeremy, I've been a campaigner all my life. But the first global campaign I was involved with was the Global March Against Child Labor, which was a movement organized many decades ago, led by Kailash Satyarthi from India, who then was awarded a Nobel Prize. It was a massive movement that went all across all continent, bringing the voice of children who were rescued from exploitation and forced labor. And this march meant, particularly for me, at the time I was working for an Italian NGO, to organize parliamentary hearings, street demonstration, workshop, work in the school, putting the spotlight on these children who were rescued from, again, exploitation and from forced labor, and have them tell the story to parliamentarians, to decision makers, to other children their same age. And to me, those stories, also the story of Iqbal, you may remember him. He was a Pakistani child who was killed when he was 12 because he escaped from a carpet factory in Pakistan, and he led a movement to empower children to refuse to force labor and to seek for education. So all these stories mark, I was very young at the time, a very visible sign of me on how unjust and unequal our world is. And to me, fighting for the root causes of the injustice has been since then like my main priority. But if we nail down on a strategy to start addressing some of these very deep inequalities, education is the first step. So fighting inequality and using quality education for all is the first step.
Marina, thank you. And thank you for that information. I can see why it's so important to you. So the SDG Global Action Campaign has been a huge success in raising awareness of some of the most important issues, and congratulations to you and your team for all the incredible hard work that you've been doing. I want to ask you, in relation to education, how do you think the SDG Global Action Campaign and the global goals has brought the issue of education and its importance to the young people of our world?
So very quickly, first of all, on the campaign, for those who may not know us, we do mainly three things. And first, in which we believe a lot. The first is we engage with civil society, youth, and other marginalized groups, and we make sure they are engaged in policy making at all levels, because we want to contribute in our humble way to rebuild the trust between citizen and institution, and dialogue is the first step. The second thing we do and we believe is in the power of art and creativity to inspire action and lasting positive change. We believe that people will only change their behavior or shift their life when they are touched in their heart and emotion, not only listening to data and to fact. And we believe in how art can unleash that transformative change. And third, every year we launch a call for application, and we run an SDG Action Awards program where we look for change maker and initiatives that are making a difference all over the world, often in very challenging contexts of poverty, of conflict, of climate devastation. And because through this program, we not only want to celebrate those heroes and those change makers, but we want to convey a message of hope and of possibility to more people. And somehow you ask me, what's your role, with the global, with the issue of education? As a global campaign, everything we do relates to education. We believe in communicating to empower people with information and resources so they can become agents for change towards a vision of a more equal and sustainable world. As Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And also, and let me end here, some of our SDG Action Awards finalists are also on the front line of education. We had a finalist from Zimbabwe in the edition in 2024 who, through a very effective campaign, Every Child in School, she changed the legislation in Zimbabwe to allow for free education for every children, particularly those who were left outside the school system. And then for a very funny coincidence, but it's not a coincidence, I just recorded today a message for another finalist from our SDG Action Award program, who has been an advocate for, again, education for children, particularly focusing on the Al-Majiri children, who are a minority of street children in Nigeria who are left out of any protection, and including school system. And is organizing a conference, today on the Education Day, to bring the spotlight to these children and to bring together policymakers, because we need data, we need access to education and policy that can really build inclusive community. So this is just a few examples.
Absolutely incredible and wonderful that you are honouring and raising awareness of those initiatives that are out there in the world, as you say, in really challenging situations. I mean, real heroes, right? Doing everything that they can to make a difference against all the odds. Wonderful that you do that and raise awareness of people like that. It's really special. Well done, Marina. I want to ask you, days like this, why is it important that we focus, at least for one day, on the importance of education? Why is it important?
So, days like this are very important because they put the spotlight on issues that often are neglected, like education. And to me, education is particularly important because it kind of defines the overall well-being of a country. Let me give you a very specific example. As you know, the United Nations Development Program set up, created the index of the Human Development Report a few decades ago, which is an index that somehow ranks country based on the well-being of the country in terms of human development, which is the development which is human-centered. And somehow it's interesting to see which are the indicators that are used to define a country that is really focusing, their development on people and on the well-being of people. And in this very important index, there are three dimensions. One is, of course, income, because this is very important. The second element is life expectancy, because this is also define the well-being of people and of the society. And the third is the level of education. So somehow education is not just one kind of add-on or nice to have, it's key to define the well-being of people. And also it's a key link to the future. We often talk about, the next generation or how we can leave a healthy planet, in terms of the environment to the new generation. But I think education is the best investment to create the transition to the future, to equip the people, the young, very young people from, elementary school today with the tools so that they can grow and they can make their country become more prosperous, more equal, and they can become agent to build a better society for tomorrow. When we see the data on education today, there are really negative data. I'm sure today you'll hear from many other people. There are still 250 million children and youth who are out of school, and there are still today 763 million adults that are illiterate. And sadly, again, and it goes back to the issue of inequality, there are also staggering difference between, children out of school in Europe or North America, which is about 3%. And then if we go to Asia, the number is higher, 43% of children out of school. And if we go to sub-Saharan Africa, the number is higher again and reaches 84%. So these huge inequalities are again another staggering factor that nobody of us should accept. And sometimes when we look into education and all the gaps, there is also a shortage of 44 million teachers that are really not in their role. So sometimes that's also a huge problem. And of course, when look at education, many people say, okay, one gap is the financing gap. And accordingly to the award of that report of 2024, prepared by the UN Trade and Development Organization, today around 3.3 billion of people, which is around 40% of the population of our globe, live in countries that are spending more on repaying the interest, not even the debt, the interest on the debt, than on education or on health. And again, this shows how we live in a world where countries are being forced to choose between servicing their creditors, and in today's numbers of debt, those creditors are mostly private company or banks or private investor, or serving their people, delivering basic human rights to them, including education. So I think we know by now that we live in a world where we have the resources to address and to deliver education and other basic human rights to everyone. What we're missing are effective redistribution systems that allow asset and financial flows to really be more equitably redistributed and to reach everyone in every country and within every country the most vulnerable segment of the population, which often are children who who don't have a say in policy making, but often have a bigger burden in terms of conflict, poverty, and climate devastation.
Incredible, Marina. That is absolutely fascinating. Life expectancy, income, and education being the main things that are focused on to see whether a country's thriving. Makes complete sense. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you about goal 4, quality education. If you think, I'm sure when you do a job like yours, all of the goals must be absolutely fascinating for you. Into every day must be just so interesting. But when you look back at this, when you get to the end of this campaign and you look back over the 15 years of work and you think about goal 4, so far, because there's still time left in the campaign, but goal 4, what will be some of the highlights for you? How do you feel that goal has worked out there in the world?
So at the campaign, although every goal is different and is of critical importance, we believe in the goals as the pin that is a circle. And the circle means that there is a unity. And what we mean by that is that you cannot achieve any of the goal if you don't achieve them all. So somehow the beauty, or if you want to say the other coins, the other face of the coins would be the challenges and the difficulties of the goal, is that to really fully achieve any of the goal, you need the others. And there are very strong linkages between any of the goal. When we look at education, and if you want to maybe look at education next to gender equality, which is the next one, of course, you cannot achieve any of the goals of gender equality if you don't invest in education, particularly for girls and women. And then if you look at other indicators of the gender equality, like policy participation or even economic empowerment, of course, you go back to the need of having access to not just education, but quality education. So it's also, if we look at some of the challenges of our society affecting children, starting from child marriage, again, education is a very powerful strategy to empower young girl and their mother and their family to refuse certain practice. And also, if you want to see, I think if we still see too many pictures, when we see the picture of the G7 leaders, G20 leaders, but sadly, even the General Assembly in September, there are still a staggering larger number of men, leading countries. So this can start, the kind of a political shift that we need starts with education. So I think education is really a very important tool for social mobility. And of course, education is key to, for instance, gender equality, but also education is key for fighting inequalities, because the moment everyone is equipped with the tool, they can all aspire to, to build more equitable societies. But also when we look at health, there are very strong links. We had the COVID pandemic. We had a lot of misinformation about what to do, what not to do, or about the vaccination. There are a lot of misinformation still in the world about vaccination in general. So education can help family and mother and caretaker to take the right health decision. But also if we look at reproductive health, giving girls and women more information about their sexual health will reduce mortality and also will increase life expectancy. But even if we look at other goals like decent jobs, education and training are key. If we look at energy, if we look at innovation, of course, education is the first step. So I'm saying this to show how much the goals are interlinked, and which is something beautiful, because it shows that development cannot be seen as a kind of a kind of a silos. So also many other goals are essential for education. If we look at the nutrition goal or fighting hunger, if children are hungry and are not sufficiently healthy, they cannot learn even if they are in the classroom. If we look at goal 16 about peace and having a peaceful societies or transparent institution, if children risk their life to go to school, or if there are threats, or if schools are bombarded, then of course that's that's not helping, in reaching the goal of education. So education, can be an accelerator of other goals, but other goals are also prerequisite for achieving education. So the goals are really united and are really a partnership between everyone.
Yeah, incredible, absolutely amazing. They're inspirational. It's an amazing campaign, and so well thought through. How you designed it, the look and the feel of it. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I really wish you the very best, Marina, with the final stages of the campaign in relation to these 15 years. So really good luck with it. At Peace One Day, we'll always do everything we can to raise awareness of your incredible work. And the goals are, of course, an inspiration to me personally on a daily basis, particularly, of course, Goal 16, Peace and Justice. But as you say, they're all interlinked. It's one big united program. So lastly, for people who want to become involved, to find out more, where do they go?
So the first thing, wherever you are, in any country, there are a civil society organization working on education. You can join them, you can support them. I have a 17 years old daughter who is doing tutoring for refugees in our town. So there are so many opportunities where you can really engage and share the knowledge and support organization working on education. A second very simple action, the UN has launched a few years ago, Act Now, which is an app which you can download on your phone, where you can commit to taking action, and then you can see the impact of your action. And these are action on climate, these are action on social, and these are action on peace and in more inclusive society. So I think this is another very, very practical tool. And the third, we encourage you to watch and keep monitoring the UN SDG Action Awards website. And when the next call for application will be out, please help us to disseminate it, and also to see whether you are watching us are one of the next round of finalists or winner, or whether you know somebody that should receive this recognition and send the message of hope to everyone.
Amazing. Marina, the very best of luck with everything that you're doing. And thank you for joining #Education Day.
Thank you, Jeremy. Always a pleasure.